سيدنا ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا الهرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من الثامنة وحتى التاسعة صباحا ببث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا. Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
And good morning, everybody. This is Ray Hanania. It's Friday, November 10, 2023, and I'm Ray Hanania here at Radio Bellady on WNZK AM 690 Radio. I'm guest hosting, and I'm going to do the guest hosts every second Friday of each month. We're going to take your calls at 248-557-3300, and we're going to be connecting with our guest, Amer Zahr, who is a stand-up comedian, lecturer, author. I think he's done a great job with explaining everything that has happened in the Middle East in a very smart and comprehensive way. So I wanted to bring him on. He should be connecting with us in a little bit, hopefully. And we're going to just talk to you about, your feelings about what's happening. Is the media being fair? It's amazing that, Hamas, they did kill maybe 1,400 Israelis, and Israel has killed something like 14,000 Palestinians. Almost 5,000 are children. And yet there doesn't seem to be a concern for the Palestinians and the Arabs who are being killed in Gaza. And I'm not saying anybody should be killed, and I'm not saying anybody, that should use violence. But I am saying that the United States, when it tries to stop violence, they need to stop violence, not violence based on what your religion is, not violence based on what your ethnicity is. They need to stand up and speak out against violence. And I don't think that's what President Biden has been doing, or the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. I thought he's been very biased. And I think they've been one-sided. And I think that they have given Israel's government carte blanche to do what it wants in Gaza. And I think that's wrong. I think it's terrible. And we need to do something about it. I think Amer Zahr has done a great job with bringing up the issues, raising them, and helping people understand what's going on. I don't think I can support President Biden. I voted for him the last time. I voted for Trump the first time. He did a terrible job in office. And then I voted for Biden the second time after Biden outreach to the Arab community. He won on a large part because of the Arabs in Michigan supporting him. But, it's just, he has completely been a disappointment. Now we're in we're kind of at a roadblock. What do we do? Who do we support? Who do we back? And how do we change these policies so that justice and fairness drive American policy? The issues of Israel and Gaza have impacted everything. You notice how important Israel is to the United States because prior to the Gaza war, the Republicans were fighting over who was going to be the speaker. And for 3.5 weeks, almost 4 weeks, they couldn't come together. The Democrats were enjoying it. They were having fun. But all of a sudden, the Gaza war started, and Israel said, I need money. And the U.S. is going to give Israel, and has given Israel, $14.3 billion on one instant decision last week, on top of the $4 billion that they get every year from American taxpayers. And everybody, once they realized it was for Israel, everybody came together. They set aside their politics, all the congressmen, the majority, the senators, the president, with Blinken beating everybody up. They set aside their concerns and decided to come together because Israel needed them. But when the American people need them, they ignore us. There are 582,000 homeless people in the United States. Almost a third of them are American veterans who have served the United States. And they deserve to be represented. And all that money, instead of going for the American people, when they snap their fingers and say, oh, Israel needs money, everybody came together. They set aside their political differences and they started doing everything that they wanted to do. It looks like my guest, Amer Zahr, is on. I can see you, Amer. Can you hear me okay? Amer, can you hear me? We got to get Amer on there. There we go. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, I can.
No?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. I thought maybe I lost it. You know, the CIA and the Mossad, they're targeting us. You know, and they're taking us down, our internet, everything. This guy, I tell you what I saw. I've been following Amer Zahr for years. This guy is not just a great stand-up comedian. It's his message is so piercing. It pierces shields in this country, and he's so calm about it. He's not screaming and yelling, you know, all the time and getting angry. You know, I remember growing up and every time we had a problem, everybody in the family and all the friends, and we'd be yelling and screaming at the TV, and nobody can understand what we're saying, but you can understand this guy. Amer, welcome to the radio show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, Ray.
So, listen, I know you as a stand-up comedian, and obviously this is not a funny time, but being a comedian, I think, gives you a talent to take words and make sure that they're conveyed in a very effective way. And you've been doing it. Tell us what is happening from your perspective. I mean, how do you see what's happening in Israel and Gaza, and what is Biden and the United States doing? I mean, how do you sort this mess out for people? What is it that we should be focused on?
Well, it's what we should have always been focused on. I mean, October 7th didn't really change the focus when you really understand what's going on in Palestine, which is, my dad always told me, it's very simple. They stole our land, they kicked us out, and they don't let us come back. That's it. That's the only reason we're upset. It's the only reason we're angry at anybody. It doesn't matter what they are. I mean, they happen to be Jewish. They could have been Christian. They could have been Buddhist. They could have been black. They could have been white. They could have been Asian. They could have been Muslim. And we would have felt the same way. So this is all about that. And I think, you know, as thinkers or activists or as comedians were taught kind of like to keep it simple, because you don't have enough time. You got to make people laugh and you got to get to a punchline pretty quickly. So, right. You know, they stole our land. They kicked us out. They don't let us come back. That's it. So really the only reason we're upset, and that's what all of this is coming from. And then, of course, you do have to get into sometimes the long form, which is educating and re-educating. Well, sort of, you know, look, it would be one thing if the American public didn't know anything about Palestinians. The problem is they've been misinformed for such a long time. So we have to sort of unlearn them and then try to teach them the facts, which is a lot harder than if they didn't know anything. I mean,
so the Americans are misinformed, or yes, even our community a little bit sometimes, isn't it?
Well, I mean, in as much as our community are Americans and are sometimes subject to the propaganda of the American media and the government. But yeah, I mean, we've been so misinformed about Palestinians for 75 years because that's been part of the game, right? Part of the game has been to misinform, to depict us. You know, we saw right after October 7th, the machines sort of go into overdrive, depicting Palestinians as savages and inhumane and all this kind of stuff. But the truth is, you know, they've been doing that for 75 years. That machinery that they had, they were prepared for that, and they've been doing that for a long time. You know, you've dealt with it, you've wrote about it from, you know, the 70s and 80s. So I mean, this is nothing new to us. But the difference is now the newer generations who brought up in this country, who are past sort of the immigrant generation, aren't afraid to sort of fight back and talk about it anymore. Maybe some of our parents were, because they were just kind of like, they don't want to rock the boat. They wanted to stay here. They didn't want to get into too much trouble. But now people aren't afraid of that.
When I started in journalism back in the 70s, they would get mad at me for writing something they didn't like. And they would keep me out of from getting jobs at newspapers. When I finally got a job at a newspaper, I tried to assert my Palestinian identity. And that's what got them upset the most. They didn't care that I criticized politicians, Republicans or Democrats. They were, yeah, we want that writing. Here's an award. Get this, get that. You say anything about Israel that they don't like, and they went berserk. But the hardest thing was our community didn't recognize how important that fight was. And
Right.
it's so easy for Americans to beat us. Does the community stand behind you 100% when you're trying to get these messages? I can imagine the assault that you're under from the pro-Israel activists and the American legions that they have in Congress. They must hate you. Did Biden ever invite you to perform stand-up comedy at one of his events? Has he done that yet?
No. No, I was,
You're not going to get an invite now, right?
No, I mean, I never was, I always, I tell this joke on stage right now where I say, sometimes my white friends see that I'm, selling out shows in the Arab world and selling out shows in America and Arab communities, but they don't really get it, So my white friends ask me, Amer, are you famous? And I tell them, well, yeah, but I'm really specifically famous. Like Palestinians know who I am, Arabs know who I am. 99% of the world has no idea who I am, but this 1%, they're very dedicated to me because I talk about Palestine. I said, but other than that, I'm on everybody's hit list,
Sometimes it's better to be the big frog in a little pond, though. But but it has to be terrible. I mean, on the one hand, we are peaceful people. We don't want violence. Yeah, there's some people that I don't agree with that engage in violence, but are we the only ones that engage in violence? Because when I look at the coverage of Israel and Gaza today, it's always about Hamas. I was on a press conference call with someone at the State Department yesterday, and all he spoke about was the horrific act of October 7th, what the Hamas did to the Israelis. And generally, yeah, and then we want to bring humanitarian care to Gaza. I tried to ask a question. They wouldn't let me ask it. What about the Palestinians that are dying there? 40% of them are children. Do you not care about that? They wouldn't allow the question. I couldn't even get the question on there. As soon as I should have lied and said, I want to say how much I love President Biden and everything he's doing. And then once I gave him the mic, I wonder how far I could have gotten. Isn't that the challenge that we have? How do you get past that? This roadblock that they put up, the censorship, this one-sided narrative that's dominated in politics, in the media, on TV, our politicians who we thought loved us, the Democrats, the partnership. What happened to the partnership? What kind of partnership is that? How do you deal with it? How should we deal with it?
Well, I mean, luckily, there isn't just, when I was growing up in the 80s, there was just 4 channels, and if you could put your resources towards controlling the media on 4 channels, then you'd be set. Now there's 6 billion journalists because everybody has a cell phone and 6 billion opinions. And when that happens, so social media, I mean, when that phenomenon comes about, then the truth eventually wins because everybody has access to the truth and can research. And so I'm much more optimistic. I don't really worry much more about changing the narrative in mainstream media. I like to point it out for its hypocrisy, but as far as trying to change it, I'm not that worried about it. CNN has basically become a mouthpiece for the Israeli government. Fox is a whole different thing. And then MSNBC, maybe every now and then you get a little bit of fair coverage. But for the most part, look, the pro-Israel lobby has put a lot of money into messaging in those major networks, and they still have a lot of influence there. And they've put a lot of money into Congress, and they still have a lot of influence there. But as time has gone on, and again, social media has become more of a phenomenon, people have way less trust in the mainstream media, and they have way less trust in their government. And so these 2 places that the Israelis have poured tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars into, have become less relevant in American society. And now they're sending emails. I don't know if you saw on social media, Ray, but they're sending emails to influencers on social media offering them money to post pro-Israel stuff because Because you know why? Because that's what they've always done. People don't understand the formula that they're sending to influencers is really the only formula they know. They don't know a formula of, please go and what do we say? We say, please go and do your own research. Please learn about Palestine. And we think that you'll come out on the right side. We've always only asked for even-handedness and learn the facts. And then we think you'll come on our side. Be fair. Yes. What do? They do the only thing they know how to do, which is offer people money to send their message. So I always talk about the power of the truth and what we have, and that eventually wins. Now, it's going to win at a much more accelerated pace because of social media, but the power of the truth, Rashida is a great example. So Rashida is what I say, Rashida is one person out of 535 members of the U.S. Congress, 435 in the House and 100 in the Senate. And 5 years ago, we didn't have her, and then we elected her. And this one woman has made Israel and the pro-Israel lobby lose their minds. They raised tens of millions of dollars to get rid of her. They have conferences every 2 or 3 months. How do we get rid of Rashida? Now, if you are strong and secure and you believe in what you're saying, you don't care about one woman out of 535. Right. You only care about one woman out of 535 if you are weak and fragile and insecure, because you're afraid that if people hear the truth, everything will come crashing down. So look at what they do and look at what we do. We tell people, and the other thing is they try to silence us. I mean, they try to silence me. They put me on blacklist websites. They call my the law school that I work at. They do everything. There's only one reason you try to silence the other side. That's because you're lying. If you're not lying, you don't care what the other side says. So we've never tried to silence them. In fact, we like it when they talk. Like when they talk, we let them talk enough because eventually they tell on themselves. We kind of like it. You know, like remember 2 years ago in Sheikh Jarrah, there was that settler Yaakov that came out and said, if I don't steal it, somebody else will steal it.
Yes.
Oh, I love this guy. I shared his stuff over. I love it when they talk. But let them talk. Of course.
Listen, Amer, you are phenomenal. We got to do a break now, but can you stay with us on the show and maybe we can take some phone calls? That message that you just said is probably the most effective message that we should be getting out and explaining to Americans. I don't have to go back and give them a history lesson about Palestine and Israel going back to 1917. If I just explain what you just said in that 2 minutes, I think people understand it. I'm Ray Hanania. Our guest is Amer Zahr, a comedian and author. And we're going to talk about a book that he wrote too in a little bit, and professor. And I think he's one of the most effective voices we have conveying what's really happening in Israel and Gaza and this distorted relationship that we have between Israel, the Arab world, and the United States. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most. And make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights. With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600.
And welcome back to Radio Bellady. This is Ray Hanania here at WNZK AM 690 Radio. Our phone number is 248-557-3300. 248-557-3300 if you want to ask our guest a question about what's going on. Our guest is Amer Zahr. His website is amerzahr.com, AMERZAHR.com. I spelled that right, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. You got a simple name, just AZ. Can we just call you the Z-Man? We're just going to call you the Z-Man to make it easy.
Whenever I'm on like a customer service call or something and they ask me how to spell my name, I tell them it's Amer like America, the first 4 letters of America, and that I don't know whether that freaks them out or, helps, but
when I was in school, I had a friend, Adlai Shalaby, such a great guy. His brother is a good friend of mine. He was a friend of mine. And in school, everybody would make fun of his name, Adlai. What kind of name is Adlai? Adlai.
Yeah.
And then when you open up the newspaper, Adlai Stevenson was running for president of the United States.
Right.
And nobody said anything about him. For some reason, they know we're Arab. They give us a problem. Your voice and your message has resonated. And I think you're right that if we don't have to go through the mainstream media. Is that the thing that we got to recognize, that let's not get upset? When I turn on TV and I see them, it angers me. So I change the channel. But we are having an impact. Our message is getting out on video, TikTok. Yeah. Some of it is getting out on Facebook. They blocked me for some reason. They've given me a problem now with broadcasting this radio show on Facebook, but it's not going to stop me from getting it out. It's going to get out.
Right.
But it just means that it's going to be a little extra effort, right? What do we do with that frustration? What do we do to get our message out?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is obviously still value in pointing out the hypocrisy that happens in mainstream media. And mainstream media still has an amazing reach. So when positive things happen, we should share it and point out the hypocrisy when it happens and the ridiculousness when it happens. But we still have to understand that we have a lot of strength in social media. And, look, to the point where they admitted it, the former prime minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, there was a big news story the other day where he was publicly complaining about how pro-Palestinian messages are going out at a rate of like 15-1 over pro-Israel messages on social media. And
truth is more powerful than lies, somebody should have told them.
And it takes a lot less money. There's a reason you need $4 billion a year, because it costs a lot of money to keep a lie going for 75 years. It doesn't cost a lot of money to tell the truth, so this kind of thing is really changing the playing field. I mean, if there was social media in 1948, it might have never happened, and this, remember the Nakba that we experienced in 48 happened over the span of a year, but it really happened without any real coverage. What's happening is the coverage is out there. And I think Israel's in big trouble. I mean, I actually think that we're sort of witnessing the end of Israel. I don't think they can come back after all of this. And when you see people mobilize very quickly, I mean, and we were sort of ready for this moment with all the preparation that we've gone through over the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, we Palestinian Americans have gone through, and the way that our parents, frankly, prepared us by telling us the story. I always say, why do I know that we have the truth? Because my grandmother, my dad's mother, who was ethnically cleansed from Jaffa in 1948 with my dad, who was 1 month old. She lived in our house, because that's what we Arabs do, by the way. We don't, when old people, like when our old people are alone, we don't put them in retirement homes. You know, they
We
come,
take care of them.
yeah, we're not white. They come and live. We don't go visit them once a week. They come and live with us until they die, and we put their picture on the wall. Like, those are the rules in our culture. I always tell white people, if you walk into an Arab person's house and you see pictures on the wall, if you see a picture of an old person on the wall, you tell them, God bless their soul, because that person's not alive. That person's dead. Okay, if you see an old picture person on the wall, they're dead. And so I say, you know, she used to live with us, and me and my brother, we would go see her every night, because she would buy us these little cupcakes that my mom would never buy for us, because, you know, your grandmother gets you stuff that your mom doesn't get you, especially if she's your dad's mom, because she doesn't like your mom. So anyway, we would go there every night, and she'd give us these cakes, and but before we got them, we had to pay a price, and the price was listening to her stories from 1948. But it was really one story. She'd lay on her bed, and I'm sure you've heard the story before from people, Ray. She'd lay on her bed, and she would hold up two fingers, and she'd say in Arabic, she said, "Alulna btirja'u ba'd usbu'ain," which means they told us we could come back in 2 weeks, and we're still waiting. And she told that story every night. And that's how I know that we have the truth, because I lived with the truth. My grandmother was the truth. She was speaking the truth every single night. We Palestinians are smart, but we are not smart enough to all independently tell the same lie for 75 years. We're not that smart. Nobody is. And so I know that that truth comes out, and that truth is why very quickly we've been able to mobilize people in different cities around America. And the media and the mainstream media does not cover the large protests. I mean, in Chicago, there was a few weekends where there was tens of thousands of people in the streets, and the media doesn't cover that. Sometimes the media will cover like a 200 or 300 person protest somewhere. So they'll say, well, yes, there's a protest. You know, we love freedom of speech, but it wasn't that big. Don't worry.
They're insignificant.
Yeah, right. But they cover the small ones. See, there's an agenda there. We had 25,000 people in the streets of Detroit a few weeks ago. They didn't really cover that much, just a little bit. So, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because how are those people? The optimism is in this. How are those people going to the streets? Because of social media and because they're hearing the truth. And the government and the media, the mass media, will always be the last people to do the right thing.
Do you think this conflict is going to change our community? Because listen, 15 years ago, you know how Arab Zahr, Rashida Tlaib and I got into a little stupid argument over something. I don't even remember what it was. I can't even tell you what the disagreement was. And we've been apart for 15 years. And I have to tell you, when I saw her on TV standing up the way she did, it made me feel strength. It gave me strength to say, you know what? She is our voice. We need to support her. We need to back her. We need to do everything we can. Does the Arab community sometimes, you know, maybe when things aren't as bad as they are, we have these problems and we make mountains out of molehills? 15 years ago, an argument, there's no reason why I should have let it go on that long. Right. But isn't our community like that? What do we need to do to be a better community to make our voices stronger and support people like you?
Well, this is the way I look at it. I feel, and maybe the last month has proved it. I've always felt this way, but maybe the last month has proved it more than anything, is that we Arabs around the world and we Arabs in America see ourselves as one big family. One big family that has been bound by culture and language for 1,500 years, which listens to the same songs and does all the same traditions, regardless of religion. We see ourselves in that way, as one big family. And what do families do? They fight and they bicker. And, you know, sometimes we fight and we bicker. But what do we also do? That when there's a time of crisis, we close ranks. And we have actually seen that in the last month, that in this time of crisis, every Arab has closed ranks and says, okay, this is the crisis in front of us. This is what we have to deal with. So let's go deal with it. And so that is very heartening to me. You know, I see that now in our community. Yes, of course, we bicker because we love each other. We fight because we love each other. But at the end of the day, it is very, you know, it is that Arabic proverb, right? أنا وأخوي على ابن عمي أنا وابن عمي على الغريب. So me and my brother against my cousin, me and my cousin against the neighbor. So eventually we all come together, and that's made me very optimistic. And so that's the way I look at Rashida. She has been that voice for us, that voice of reason.
Yes.
No matter what political differences that you might have with Rashida, I don't care if you're a right-wing Republican. The fact that she is there in these times of crisis, and that she's in Congress wearing a keffiyeh and talking in these times of crisis, even if it only happens once a year, should be enough to max out her political donation every year, because that presence is more important than anything else.
And I've been donating to her. And I have to say, I think part of the problem is our internal communications in the Arab community. We don't do a good job of communicating. So differences end up becoming differences that grow. They're augmented. You hear one thing. We don't have a system to resolve a difference. You and I could have a difference of an opinion in normal life, and then we get past it and we move on, because you're right. There are some things that are more important. My guest on the line is Amer Zahr. We got to take another ad break here at WNZK AM Radio 690. And when we come back, we'll continue this discussion with our guest, Amer Zahr. His webpage is amerzahr.com. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
ArabNews.com, bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com, news that matters to you.
And that is our last ad. And this is All Technology. I'm in Chicago. Amer, I think you're in Detroit. The radio station is in Detroit. Sir. We're broadcasting all over the place. And we will post this in spite of what Zuckerberg is doing to me. We will get this out. You know, we do have one social media, don't we, where this is kind of like almost the way the Vietnam War was. I served during the Vietnam War. And everything, you know, it was a horrible war that I don't think anybody understood until they started presenting videos on television about what we were doing to the Vietnamese people, the carpet bombing, the massacres, the killing, all that stuff started to come out in video. It was on television back then. The TV was a supporter of freedom back then. Today, it's not. Thank God for the social media. But, you know, as we know, places like Facebook have been trying to censor us. TikTok seems to be one of the best places. Well, where do we go to get the truth? Where do we go? How do we get the truth, Amer?
Yeah, I mean, and look, when you talk about Vietnam, it took years before those videos started coming out, right? Here in this case, obviously the same day in real time, we're seeing the destruction of Gaza. So TikTok is the best. Look, you know how I know that TikTok is the best place to get the truth? Because 2 nights ago, I think it was, at the Republican debate, I heard like 2 Republican candidates, including Chris Christie, say that they want to ban TikTok.
Right.
So when you hear politicians say that they want to ban something, that means it's probably telling the truth, and it's because of us. Of course. I mean, you know, so I mean, when you hear that kind of stuff, I mean, I think Christie and Haley both were like banning TikTok. I mean, you know, when you get to a point, I mean, America's supposed to be the beacon of free speech, right? And they're saying let's ban TikTok. So they are afraid of the truth, and this idea of politicians, elected officials in the media being unable to control the message really freaks them out, because, you know, they control by propaganda. And now that they're not able to do that anymore, it scares them. And they're going to be the last people to do the right thing. I mean, politicians and the media will be the last people to do the right. You don't think the media knew about this carpet bombing in Vietnam for 5 years before they actually aired it? Of course they did. Of course they did. And it was just pressure eventually that made them air it. Or maybe internal divisions between the media and the politicians. I don't know, but they knew. And so they're always going to be the last people to do the right thing. Let's not forget, the American government held tightly onto slavery until it needed to have a civil war where they killed 6,000 of each other to decide whether or not slavery was a good idea. So they were holding on to that dearly. Jim Crow took another 100 years and major protests and uprising where, yes, people died and it was ugly, before the government said, okay, maybe Jim Crow is a bad idea. And we're both, I'm a little bit younger than you, but we're both old enough to remember when that America, the Reagan administration, was one of the last governments in the world to abandon the apartheid government in South Africa. So they're always the last people to do the right thing. And let's not forget they've lied to us over and over again, right? I mean, when that hospital, that Christian Baptist hospital, was bombed in Gaza a few weeks ago in the beginning of the war, and they immediately started their propaganda machine. No, it was the Palestinians who did it. Right. Nobody believed them. And why? It was partly because, look, we can get the truth pretty quickly, but also because, look, they lied about Shireen Abu Akleh. They said they didn't kill her. It took them a year to admit that they did.
An American citizen.
Yes, an American citizen. They lied about using white phosphorus. We knew that they used white phosphorus. They lied about it. They lied when they told people, go to the south and you'll be safe, of Gaza, and they bombed them in the south. And they lied to, and when I say they, I mean the Americans and the Israelis. They lied to us. I'm old enough to remember Colin Powell sitting in the United Nations Security Council holding up a vial telling us all that we had to bomb Iraq because there was weapons of mass destruction. 1 million Iraqi Arabs died for that lie. Right. So guess what? We don't believe you. We don't believe you. And, you know, one of the people at the forefront of this media critique in American and American and European society, really global society in the last 30 years, was Edward Said, one of our own, who was writing over and over, telling us all the time, look, this is a machine. This is not a place to get valid information. He wrote about it over and over again, him and Noam Chomsky and other intellectuals. And so, you know, they were right. And maybe it took social media for us to realize, hey, you know what? These stations that we get on TV, they're lying to us. Right. And these lies are not just little lies. These lies cause the deaths and destructions of whole societies.
And one of the biggest lies was the one during the Vietnam War, which justified the war when they accused the Viet Cong of attacking our ships at the Gulf of Tonkin in 1964. Right. And then we launched a massive, he upscaled our soldiers. They sent 500,000 troops to Vietnam because of that one lie. It took years to come out to find out that that was crafted intentionally to get people angry, and they still do that. Why is it so hard for people to believe? What do we do, though, as Arab Americans? What do we do? We're in a terrible place where we can't get justice. We can't. I listened to the GOP debate. It made me sick. And I'm listening to Biden and Anthony Blinken, and it still makes me sick. What do I do? What do I do in the election? What should Arab Americans do in the upcoming election?
Well, I mean, so far, and
the lesser of two evils, that doesn't work.
This is what they've sort of raised us on and told us, hey, there's only two parties and all of this and that. Look, I mean, silence is an option. Silence is an option. And especially in places like Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, where we have sizable Arab American communities who, by the way, have become much more politically engaged in the last 20 or 30 years, especially through the Bernie movement and other movements where people finally felt like some candidates were talking to them, and our standards have raised. It used to be in the past, we say, well, we know they're all bad on Palestine, so we'll vote for them on other things. Now it's like, well, we saw a presidential candidate who was willing to talk. I mean, he had a lot of work to do, and now we see he didn't go as far as we wanted him to, but he had a lot of work to do, but he was somebody who changed the narrative a little bit on Palestine, and so our standards were raised. And so now we expect presidential candidates to talk about this, and we expect to be heard. And so silence can be an option. And the other good thing about Arab Americans in coming up next year, well, it's going to serve us well, is that we've never really been wed to a particular political party. Unlike other minority communities, the Black community is basically wed to the Democrats. The Latino community is kind of split, but we've never really been wed. If you remember in 2000, we had like a 70% of our community voted for George W. Bush. And then he lied about Iraq. And by 2004, we were kind of half and half Democratic Republican. Then in 2008, we all voted for Barack Obama because he's Muslim. And then as things went on, we became more Democrat. But we're not really wed. Those institutions are not deeply rooted in our communities. So voting for nobody next year on the presidential ticket, I would encourage people to vote. Make sure you vote, because there's other races to vote for. I mean, if you live in Michigan, for instance, if you live where I live, we all have to go vote for Rashida, because even if we know she's going to win, we have to make sure she wins by 90 points, so everybody knows that we're behind her. And leave the presidency blank, or express your anger at Biden. I mean, look, people feel betrayed and angered by Biden. We all knew that he wasn't great on Palestine, but he also came to the table with human rights and compassion. And I've been through tragedy, so I understand. I knew that was all a lie about Biden. But look, Ray, I don't know. Last year or 2020, when the election happened, I was with Bernie, and we were with Bernie because of Palestine. I mean, let's be honest.
Right. Bernie was good.
Bernie ran up numbers of 80% against Biden and Clinton in our communities because of Palestine. It wasn't because, if you come to Dearborn, nobody voted for Bernie because of like environmental justice or social or LGBTQ rights or $15 an hour minimum wage. It was all about Palestine. Okay.
Right.
And that issue united us. And so we can now vote with anger about Palestine and vote for against Biden. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if you see votes next year coming out of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights here, where we have lots and lots of Arab voters, where they go to the polls and they vote for Rashida and they vote for Trump as a protest against Biden. I mean, you're going to see a lot of Rashida Trump ballots next year.
Look what Trump did. Look what Trump did to the Republican Party. He wasn't really what, people said he was a terrible person, but he's dragging the Republican Party down. He has 91 indictments. The Republicans are a mess. All their lead candidates can't get 5% of the vote.
Yeah.
So in a way, when you look back at that, is there a strategy though for Arab Americans? I mean, do we do enough? Do we come together? I think this should be a lesson for us, shouldn't it? That we need to set aside our internal differences. We need to recognize that we are targeted in this country, that no one is going to treat us fairly. Even when Biden said good things about us, breadcrumbs are not bread.
Yeah.
And breadcrumbs may smell like bread, but it's not bread.
Right. And there's power in no. See, we're such a nice, hospitable community. We always try to find the good in people, and that is a good quality in everything except politics. There is power in saying no, because I can tell you from working on presidential campaigns, when they have meetings, they have much more meetings about how do we get the people that don't like us instead of how do we please the people that do like us. They understand opposition. So there's a lot of power in saying no, and I think no will be an option next year.
All right, we got to take our last break. My guest is Amer Zahr. His website is amerzahr.com. We're having a phenomenal conversation. This will be posted all over social media. I'm sure NBC is going to run this probably Sunday morning on their program because they want to be fair. They want to do something right. One day that could happen. You never know. You got to leave the door open. We're going to take a break. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics, according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600. Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most. And make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493. ArabNews.com. Bringing you breaking news from across the Middle East and the latest on Arabs in America. Get inside the latest headlines with expert analysis and insights at ArabNews.com. Join over 5 million Facebook fans and over 10 million monthly readers. ArabNews.com. News that matters to you.
And we're back here at WNZK AM 690 Radio with our guest, Amer Zahr. He is the author of a book called Being Palestinian Makes Me Smile, which I read. I got autographed. I saw him perform at the ADC conference a number of months ago. It was funny as hell. You're my second favorite Palestinian comedian because I love myself. I'm sorry, Amer.
Well, all comedians do. That's one of the qualities that's one of the requirements of being a comedian.
Is it? Okay, yeah. But his humor was just so phenomenal, and it was different because there was a political edge to it that wasn't mean. It wasn't like a sledgehammer. It was very creative messages in the humor. Even just the way you spoke during this radio show, Amer, I truly appreciate it. I think you're doing a great job, and you're representing our community. And I'm hoping that we come together and set aside all these stupid, petty differences that we have. And people that I've argued with, and I've reached out to them, I said, what are we wasting our time arguing with each other about? What's the point when everybody's beating us over the head while we're arguing with each other? It doesn't make sense. So there's got to be a way to come together. Amer, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about what you're doing. Talk about yourself, your next performances, your next speeches, your book. Where can people get it? I assume we can go to amerzahr.com, the website, if they want to order the book, or Amazon.
Yeah, no, I actually do all the book ordering from my website because that way it comes straight to me and I send them out and people can have them dedicated. So I sign books every day. I'm signing books with people's names and sending them out. So yeah, my website, amerzahr.com. Look, I'm doing shows because obviously art and messaging has a place in this environment. I did a show in Boston last Friday that was sold out. And my show, I was touring a show before all of this called The Truth, which is part of what you saw in DC when I did that little snippet at the ADC convention. And now I've changed the name of it to The Palestinian Truth, just to be a little bit more direct. But it's about the power of the truth. And I'll be doing more shows, especially with charities, and from now till the end of the year. I'm working with a particular organization out of Chicago called Reach, where they actually raise money for scholarships for Palestinian students back home to go to college. And most of the students that have received the scholarships are in Gaza. In fact, sadly, they've lost a bunch of their scholarship recipients in the last month or so. But they're a great organization called Reach Education Fund. So I'm going to keep talking and keep being out there because, our comedy, as you know, Ray, comedy in its purest form is a form of protest. And so we have to keep talking in the ways that we know how to talk. And luckily, the reason I've been able to lead some protests and some actions out here is because of people know me from my comedy career, but they also know that my comedy has been one of the ways that I speak the truth. And so hopefully that message will keep getting out there and keep being heard. And I think, me when people say to me, aren't you worried that you're going to get blacklisted or you're never going to get on American TV, or, they're never going to give you a Netflix special. I say, I don't really care about that. Everything that I do, I think to myself, are my people going to like this? And I think to myself, is this going to be something that's going to help me to get something named after myself when I die? Are my Palestinian people going to name something after me when I die? And they're not going to name something after me because I got a Netflix special or because I had 1 million subscribers or because I had the biggest following on whatever. They're going to name something after me if I stood for something and if I stood principled for something. And that's true for every community and every person. So I encourage people out there to not worry about, now, I get it. Some people work in jobs where maybe you have to be a little bit careful. I understand. I always tell people there's no wrong way to support Palestine. If your heart's in the right place, I happen to be an independent contractor who doesn't work for anybody, so I can say whatever I want. But other people, other people, maybe you don't, and that's okay. Right. Maybe your way of supporting Palestine is just being prepared for those little moments when you can educate a friend privately, or you can post something about Palestinian culture on your social media. Not everybody has to do it the same way, but we do have to support each other. And I've actually been very, like I said, very heartened in the last month where we really see, if you were fighting with somebody on October 6th, after October 7th, all of a sudden we really did come together. And we really did say, okay, this is our thing. This is our issue. Those kids in Gaza are more important than whatever. We can deal with our problems later. But those kids in Gaza are more important than anything. And people have really gotten that in an unspoken way. And as far as what to do next year, I mean, look, as you know, a year from now is an eternity in politics. Who knows? But I urged people back in 2020. I made a video about a week before the election because the Biden people were reaching out to sort of Bernie holdovers like me to say, look, we need your support because we got to beat Trump. Trump is dangerous, all this kind of stuff. I said, look, I'm not really buying it. And I kind of rebuffed them because he was so, we had a presidential candidate, Biden, who was saying, I'm a Zionist. If there was no Israel, we'd have to create an Israel. I mean, that's like further than we've heard anybody go before. Right. So I told, but Trump is a racist and he's unbearable and all this kind of stuff. So I made a video about a month before the election. I said, look, I'm not a religious guy, okay? I come from a Christian dad and a Muslim mom, but I am a lawyer and I did study Islamic law. And I know this. In Islam, you can't eat pork. But if you're in the desert and you're dying of hunger and the only option is a ham sandwich, you're allowed to eat it to survive.
That's true.
Okay. But, and this is the real important point, is that the next day when your hunger is quenched, it's still a ham sandwich. You're not allowed to go back and eat it again. Ham doesn't all of a sudden become permissible because you had to eat it one day. And so I said to everybody, don't forget, Biden is a ham sandwich. You might be allowed to eat him one day, but the next day he's still a ham sandwich. Understand that. And people got into a little bit of a honeymoon. But now we're seeing he's not a ham. He's a double ham. I mean, he's a double, triple ham sandwich.
Yeah, it's terrible. honestly, I don't see any difference between Biden and Trump anymore. They each do it in a different way. The Republicans just say it to our face that they hate us. The Democrats pretend that they love us and then stab us in the back all the time. There are a bunch. There were 22 Democrats who defended Rashida. And I think those are the people we should focus on, the ones who stand up for us. We should focus all our efforts.
There's 22 Democrats who are standing with her and on the ceasefire resolution, which is great. By the way, there's only 22, but let's also say that to understand what the hill we're climbing, but we still have a lot of work to do, but we're winning. There's only 22 or something like that members of the House, 435, only 22 that are willing to sign a ceasefire resolution. I mean, how crazy is that? And by the way, when I don't know if you've seen their pictures, Ray, they're all black and brown and Latino and Arab. No white people.
Yes, this has been one. There were a couple white guys. The one from New Jersey, the congressman, who said that what they were doing was terrible. But the African American community, this conflict has changed my view. I have to look and support the African community 100%, even when I don't always agree with what is happening on the street anymore. They are standing by us. We need to stand by them. Amer, we're down to the last couple minutes. So just any final thoughts on your part, that what can we do to help you help us?
Well, thanks.
Jerry Maguire moment. What can I do to help you help me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we just have to keep supporting each other, and I know it's exhausting, and it's been exhausting to be, sort of beaten down all the time for who we are. But we have to understand that I think when people hear the truth, we win, and that is something that should make us all very optimistic. And we are going to win, and we are going to free Palestine. And yes, from the river to the sea, even though they don't like to hear that. From the river, when people say they don't like the people who say from the river to the sea is hateful are the same people who said Black Lives Matter is hateful, because they think when you pump up your own rights, they believe that when you pump up your own rights, that you are saying that they shouldn't have any rights. But the only reason they believe that is because that's the way they operate.
Right.
We don't operate like that. We think everybody should have rights. And so this messaging is working, and we have to keep going forward and keep telling the truth, because it's getting out there. And so I say to everybody out there, and I say it at all my shows, and I say it to you, Ray, but I'm saying it to everybody, is that keep going. I'm proud of you. I love you, and keep going forward, because it's working and we are going to win.
All right. Amer Zahr, our guest. Always phenomenal to talk to you. I'm so happy that you were able to come on and spend this hour with us.
Ray, I'm a comedian. I'm a comedian. Just so you know, I became a comedian, so I don't got to get up in the morning. All right. I don't know what this is all about. 8 a.m. in the morning, waking me up on a Friday morning. I mean, do you know how long it's been since I set my alarm, Ray? I don't set alarms. I did that for you this morning. Okay. I don't set alarms.
I want to have another show where we just do comedy, when we can all enjoy the talent that you have instead of focus on serious stuff, because you are a great talent. My guest, Amer Zahr. I'm Ray Hanania. Our website is hanania.com. Our guest website is amerzahr.com. Amer is more than 60% America. Amer, A-M-E-R, Zahr, Z-A-H-R.com. Go to his website. Get his book. And support them, because we need to strengthen our voices. Set aside differences with people that you're having fights with. Use this as an opportunity to bring the community together. Do the right thing. Let's try to be stronger and better to the point that we know we are. Amer, you have a great week, okay?
Thanks, talk to you
later.
Bye-bye.
All right. And everybody, you guys have a great week too. We'll talk to you again next time. Thank you again, everybody. Bye-bye.